Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of More Than a Circle webinar. This is Aykut, and today, again, we have a very special guest joining us. We are thrilled to welcome Kathryn Ganz, VP of Product at UK's leading health and wellness retailer, Holland Barrett, with a wealth of experience in product management and consultancy. So get ready for an exciting conversation filled with insights, knowledge, and inspiration. So we are excited to dive into the world of product management and learn from Kathryn's expertise. Without further ado, let's get started and soak up all the wisdom that Kathryn has to offer. So welcome, Kathryn. How are you?
Thanks very much, Aykut. Very well. How are you?
I am doing well as well. It's third episode, so it's like a classic for us. We are normally starting with the career of our guests. And I mean, if you can briefly share your background and expertise, it would be lovely for us. And as far as I know, you're actually a qualified lawyer in Australia. So how come you ended up with product management? That's a fun story. We'd love to hear.
Yeah, no, that's actually, I think about being a qualified lawyer and I'm like, how did I even start there? But maybe that's where I can start. So yeah, I mean, I studied law at university, absolutely hated it. Don't know why I did it. Far too hierarchical, far too rules-based for me. I worked as a paralegal throughout university and just honestly hated my life. So then I got to the end of my degree and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? I've always been really interested in just like running businesses and just like business and technology in general. So I thought the best thing I could do was have a pretty broad start to my career, and I started my career in strategy consulting. So lots of learning about data analysis, basically being an Excel monkey and working crazy hours. Also a lot of sort of senior stakeholder communication, structuring, problem solving. Honestly, it was a great start to my career. I worked across lots of different industries with lots of different people, and it was pretty awesome. It was hard work, but it was awesome. And then I, like most product people, actually serendipitously found product, and I was like, what is this awesome thing where you get to do the strategy and then you get to work with like super creative and talented people like designers and engineers and just like orchestrate this thing in the world where it's improving people's lives, and people are actually using it and you're seeing the value tangibly. So I was like, look, once I found it, I was like, this is absolutely for me. It's got the analysis, it's got the stakeholder communication, but it's also got like that tangible thing, and it was also quite creative, right? Product is quite creative, particularly from a like B2C products, like customer experience. So was look like I just felt really lucky that I found that, because it's so what I want to do and it just suits me really well. So for the last 6 years or so, I've been in product. Again, most of my experience has been sort of 0 to 1 products. So I built banks from scratch, built an analytics platform for a healthcare company. Most of it towards the end of my time before Holland Barrett was in health tech. And then about a year and a half, I joined Holland Barrett, initially in the ventures team, but over the last 9 months, leading what's called omni-channel customer experience. So the website, the app, and soon to be store tech. So more e-commerce based.
So you have some tools on like brick and mortar stores as well, not
We
just
have
the
some,
LMS.
yeah, we have tills and we have like colleague apps in the store. So yeah.
I see. That's awesome. I mean, I think one of the most popular backgrounds for product management is consultancy. I've been there as well. I did consultancy for just a couple of years, but I know that it was one of the most thoughtful times of my career. But the thing is, like, I know that you are from McKinsey, right? Am I correct?
That's right. Yep.
And it's like a famous company with all its frameworks and strategy workshops and all the presentations, etc. So, are there any specific business frameworks or tools that you have used in McKinsey and apply easily to the e-commerce space, or even like health and well-being, health tech space? Is there any like specific frameworks that, oh, this one works great?
Honestly, strategies seems really sort of vague, but it's so simple
Yeah.
in the end, and it's extremely formulaic. At McKinsey, we had something called the 7 steps of problem solving, but
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of where you got the steps you use to create like a strategy deck. But for me, it's like I said, it's extremely formulaic. There are really simple steps for a strategy, and it applies to like an e-commerce strategy. It applies to everything, right? What's the context? So, what, for example, what are your business objectives? What's the competitive environment look like? What's your overall financial performance? What
Mm-hmm.
are the insights you have from data? So this might be like your product data. So for example, how is my funnel performance? What are my key customer insights? Like what do some of the insights tell you? And in McKinsey, we used to go out and talk to customers and get lots of customer insights for that part. And
That's
then you
great.
kind of pull that all together and say, therefore, where does this business fit in the market?
Mm-hmm.
What's most importantly, what's the USP? What's the differentiator? And
Yeah.
therefore, what should we do? Like, what are the types of things we should focus on? And then there'd be like 3 focus areas, and that's essentially your strategy. Like once you get those focus areas, so for example, at Holland Barrett, it's like about being expert led, being science led. It's about
Yeah.
sort of having this brand around wellness and choice and adding quality years to life. You kind of center everything around those focus areas, and the rest is periphery. So that's really a strategy. That's it. There's no
I
fancy
think, uh,
model to
uh,
it.
yeah, I mean, in that regard, Holland Barrett is a really success case for me because I know that a lot of companies, especially in retail space, they're starting with a unique ICP. Like in your scenario, like the people who take care of themselves, and take care of their health, etc. I think there's a really well-defined ICP for you. But in most other scenarios, what I've seen is like, let me give you an example. That there was a flour company in Turkey. Right now, they're also doing food delivery as well. It was a flour company at the beginning, and even their name contains flour in Turkish. I know a lot of these cases over and over again, but you keep your focus. So for that focus, I think you should get buy-in from the management as well, and also all the employees inside. I mean, how do you ensure this alignment and support from various stakeholders in the company? Uh, I mean, are you leading that focus, or is it like driven top to bottom?
So it's a bit of both, right? Because what happens is, so the executive team, and particularly our CEO Alec, constantly talks about the vision for Holland and Barrett, and we
Mm-hmm.
anchor around our purpose and our vision, and it's kind of like our mantra, which is really important because it's about serving more than 100 million people globally, adding quality years to life. And the fact that
Yeah.
I can just recite that, I think, is sort of like what I mean, like the mantra. And it's really important in rallying everyone around the vision and what's important to us. Underneath that, we have what's called like our 6+4 strategy, which says these are the things we're focusing on to achieve that. And again, that's like a mantra that the whole business knows. From my perspective as VP of product, my role in that is to talk about the product strategy for web and app at the moment. Let's
Yeah.
just ignore store tech. So I'm constantly kind of doing a roadshow about this is the role of web. So web is our primary acquisition channel. We're trying to be brand first. That's our differentiator. Our differentiator is our products and our brand, and that's the same for every e-commerce company. So because the rest is periphery, the rest is table stakes. Personalization is table stakes. Social media acquisition is table stakes. Having a good checkout and multiple payment methods,
Yeah.
table stakes. Like your brand and your products are what needs to sing. So our web is our acquisition channel. We need our brand to sing. There's a whole bunch of stuff we need to do on our web experience to make our brand sing more. It's not where it needs to be. And app is our retention mechanism. So app performs really well. It's for our most loyal customers, and there's certain different things we're going to do on app. And so my role is to constantly talk about the role of those 2 channels in the
Mm-hmm.
broader strategy and the things that are important for us to achieve in the financial year and over the next sort of 3 years, and just constantly hone down on that so that we're making sure that we're focusing on the things that are actually going to move the dial towards the broader
Yeah.
sort of business vision.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a great answer. I mean, uh, one of the core things we do as product managers is saying no, I guess. And it's a huge part of our job. And let me be honest with you. Sometimes I'm having hard time to say no, even if we have a like solid strategy. Sometimes there's an opportunity that we need to chase, and we need to be fast. We need to be really quickly get that opportunity and make it our own. In those sort of situations, it becomes really hard to say no to people. So in your scenario, like Holland Barrett is a huge company. I am sure that you also got these sort of requests about opportunities, even real-time marketing stuff. It could not fit well with the current strategy, but you might have to act quickly. So how do you ensure this like reacting quickly versus being effective and being strategic do not cross each other? Like how do you manage that? Or do you have an example, specific example in your mind that, hey, I said no to here and it was the right decision?
Yeah, it's a great question. And honestly, it's my biggest struggle. And if anyone has nailed this, I'd
Yeah.
be very interested to hear, because I
It's my
feel like
problem as well.
I feel like, it's like you say, it's the constant battle. I think, honestly, I haven't nailed it. But there are some things that I've tried that have been somewhat effective. So, I mean, I think the most effective thing for us has actually been like just a quarterly business planning process. So going through, okay, so we just went through FY24 planning. Here's my high level vision for FY24. Here's my OKRs for that. So like OKRs around conversion, OKRs around retention, some foundational things we need to do to drive efficiency and also speed to market, and all of that tech debt stuff. And getting everyone rallied around that those are the important things, like an outcomes we're driving towards. And then we have hypothesis initiatives under each of those that we think will drive the most value or like move the needle the most on those OKRs. And we've then split it by quarters, right? And going through the quarterly planning, we're like, here's the primary thing we're trying to do. Classic OKR process, right? It is quite effective in managing those conversations around, hey, can you quickly just do this? Because once you set that up properly, you can say, okay, does this really influence my OKR or not? Can you give me some evidence that this is going to move the dial? Like we all agreed this is the most important thing for us to go after this quarter. You're telling me. So my biggest pain point around that is some of the stuff around marketing campaigns. So the marketing team will come to us and say, hey, can you quickly create this new component for this campaign? And it's like, okay, cool. But like, why is that component? Don't come to me with a solution. Come to me with like the problem I'm trying to solve and how this creates greater ROI on the marketing campaign, or how it impacts sort of like the objectives or outcomes we're driving towards. But again, that becomes, you do end up in a bit of a bubble of like the things you already know you need to do. And it does create this sense of like not thinking outside of what could really drive quite like innovative growth or 10x the growth, or like just make you achieve that OKR like next level. Like it kind of inhibits innovation sometimes, I find. So the other thing that I think is quite important and we're starting to do but haven't quite nailed yet, but is just protecting capacity in the squads for both discovery, like guided discovery, not completely unguided, but guided discovery, and also guided innovation. So that there is capacity to think, okay, can I just try this? For example, Gen AI, right? Like everyone's doing it. There's so much opportunity for that in Holland Barrett and what we do in ecom. Guided innovation around Gen AI, or like just in general, things that could really move the dial and aren't necessarily things we've thought of in the quarterly planning. So having that protected capacity, again, protecting that capacity is the challenge because
I'm sure.
The sprint or the quarter never goes as planned. So that's some of the things I've tried. But if anyone has any smart ideas on this, I'd be very open to it.
Yeah, it would be great to learn, of course. I mean, it's a constant battle for me, for sure. Like during our conversation, I heard another thing from one of the previous questions. You said that we are talking with our clients. We are like doing maybe regular interviews with them. So, and yeah, being data driven is a part of our job for sure. And in your space, you have a huge scale, right? Probably you have enough data to run any type of A/B test on the website or on the application side, or you can give meaning to the quantitative data. But it's always a battle for product managers again, like having the qualitative data and the quantitative data. Sometimes we can be too focused on the quant since it's easy to collect and it's easy to give it a meaning, but qualitative is sort of challenging. So I'm curious about your practices on this qualitative research type, and like how do you manage your data around your research, the interviews and like customer feedbacks on
Yeah,
huge scale.
it's a great question. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I think we are so lucky. We have so much data, and we have an awesome product analytics team as well. And I
That's
do
great.
find we rely too heavily on it, actually. It's something that I've been quite passionate about since joining the team, that we actually hear directly from customers. So we're also really lucky in the sense that we have like sentiment analysis, we have our feedback forms on the site. So customers will type into us and give us, like an NPS score and give like quite a lot of actual written qualitative data. And we synthesize that in Slack and all of that type of stuff. And every quarter, the squads will go through and call out like the key analysis of the things that are coming through that tool. So we have quotes, but what we need to do more of, we do, but we need to do more of is actually that face-to-face time with customers,
Yeah.
because this is something particularly for me because I did that so much in my previous work from 0 to 1 products. You do so much face-to-face research with
I know.
customers.
Believe me,
And
I know.
yeah, and it's so insightful. Like even having an relatively unguided, like ethnographic style research with a customer, it gets your brain really thinking about outside of your own head and what you know and into their shoes, because we're not the typical customer typically.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you just stick with the quant data, your biases are sometimes quite reinforced. So we do have a UX research team, we have an insights team, and we do set up panels. It's something we're doing more. So for example, we're launching a new loyalty proposition from scratch, and we're doing lots of panel research. The other thing I'm trying to get the product team to do is listen into customer service calls. So have like that recording and like understand what customers are complaining about directly. So that type of thing. So we do have access to the end customer. And the other really important thing for us is getting in stores. So we've mandated like in-store days just to see how customers interact, because the store is a really important part of Holland Barrett as well. So doing that type of thing.
And I think like the store experience is the natural habitat of your end users, right?
That's right.
They express all of their feelings during that store experience too. So for the panels, etc., do you work with any type of third-party tech vendors or research vendors, or are you doing it your own? I mean, are you getting help from?
Yeah, so we do use a third party for user research in general and like setting up those panels. But we do recruit directly off our site as well. So we ask customers if they'd be willing to be part of a panel or in store as well. So yeah, bit of a mix.
You are lucky because probably in your environment it's easy to hire some people to make the interviews. But for example, in startup world, when you already know that from your 0 to 1 experiences, it's really hard to find even the people to talk, and make the correct environment. So it's really hard and challenging thing to do, this sort of research, but it's high rewarding, so it's always good to have it. From LinkedIn, I saw that you have been in Vegas just a couple of months ago. Of course, you didn't go there for casino, but you were there for Shop Talk event. So how was the event?
So you say we didn't go for the casino, but there was a bit of casino time.
All right.
No,
Sure.
the event was the event was actually really great. So It was actually my first time to one of those events where
Hmm.
let me maybe just explain how it works. Grocery shop. So it was basically a big 3-day event in Vegas, and
Yeah,
lots of
I know.
tech companies supporting retail businesses came together. So there was sort of like a convention, and you could go around and chat to all of the vendors. There were one-on-one conversations. There was panels,
That's great.
conversations on the main stage, which I was also involved in. And honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect, but getting out of your environment and out of your day to day and seeing lots of different vendors and things that they were doing was so eye opening for me,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
it really triggers thinking around, oh, what are the different types of things we could do? Like, what haven't we thought of? Um, Things around like surveillance in store and capturing patterns of customers in store,
Yeah,
personalizing therefore how you show up on the shelf edge. Things like that just blew my mind, honestly. And it was really valuable to have that
yeah.
perspective. So yeah, it was great. It was really good.
Uh, I mean, we have many clients in Europe and in United States as well, and it's always fascinating for me to see the differences of their vision on e-commerce and whole shopping experience. And even like I had a chance to attend Vegas Shop Talk before, and also Shop Talk and Grocery Talk in Europe as well. And
Mm-hmm.
even the difference between events was fascinating. I mean, do you agree that like the e-commerce, I mean, the perspective of e-commerce owners in US and in Europe, especially in UK, maybe are different, or it's actually similar? Because like it was from the vendor's point of view, it was so different, but it might be like an opinionated view.
It's a good point. I think probably yes. I mean, I haven't been to one of these in Europe, but I could see big differences in the way that e-com retailers
Yeah.
in the US were focused.
Hmm.
So they are really focused, for example, on last mile delivery, which is a big
Yeah.
thing in the US because it's so spread out. And also, I feel like the demands of customers in terms of convenience and
Mhm.
speed is exceptionally high compared to the UK, for example. It's much smaller, there's less distances to travel. Also, I feel like just as a culture, we're less that fast paced, give it to me now type culture in Europe.
Yeah.
So I definitely felt that it was very like, I mean, the overall sentiment of the the conference was very American to me.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
very, you know,
Yeah.
boisterous, and it took me a while to adjust and like, you know, it was it was it was really interesting though, really really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that's good to know. Sometimes I feel like, I mean, I don't want to be offensive, but I'll be brutally honest. I feel like the East Asia is innovating something, and then like US is like a boomer, tries to mimic all the innovations, like live stream, last mile delivery, etc. All these sort of stuff are actually,
That's so true.
uh, yeah, new things in States. Uh, but in that event, you have been in a panel, and in that panel, I guess you were talking about tech partnerships and tech vendors. So uh, I want to ask, like, there's a huge debate: buy or build. You can build some stuff, or you can just buy from the market and you can use it. Especially in e-commerce industry, there are many things that you can buy or build. So I'm curious about your decision process on this, like selecting tech partners, like how that process is for you, and when do you decide to buy this from the market or build with your own team?
Yeah. So my honest answer to that is it's actually not a decision for me. The reason
Uh,
I say that, Holland Barrett is quite unique, because as a tech organization, we have grown extremely quickly over the last 2 years, and
yeah.
we've basically taken something that was third party led and rebuilt almost everything from scratch ourselves. So we
Oh.
completely rebuilt the e-commerce platform ourselves, migrated it. Same with our app, same with all of our
Mhm.
supply chain technology, same with all of our commercial pricing promo. It's all built from scratch. And that was the tech strategy for a few reasons. One of the reasons is that we were really burnt by third
Yeah.
parties. So we became extremely reliant on quite monolith providers, and it created this like lack of flexibility, lack of ability to move fast, poor performance, and just like a lot of cost relying on another company that sort of didn't share that knowledge with us, and we couldn't break out parts from it. So we were really quite burnt by that experience overall. The other reason why there's a build strategy is because of what we want to do in terms of scale, and we want to white label some of our technologies. Holland Barrett is owned by a private equity company, and there's a few other retailers in the ecosystem who would be interested in some of the technology that we're building. So there's a few parts of that. So that's the preference within Holland Barrett is always to build ourselves. That having been said, my mental model on this comes back to what I said earlier around the only thing that matters in e-com is how you differentiate yourself, and that is your products that you sell or your services that you sell, and the way you bring to life your brand, so that why customers would come to you almost. So for me, those are the only two things. All the things railing around that are things that you should build yourself. All the other table stakes pieces are things that you could technically buy or partner for, in my opinion. But that relationship, and I think the learnings from before are the nature of the partnership and the way that you integrate the technology is so important, so that you still have that control and that flexibility within your architecture and within sort of like your vision and managing costs, I think. So the way you set that up with your partners is just extremely important.
Yeah, I think it's a great decision-making process in terms of like picking like going with partner or building from scratch. It's always tied to your core business and your core technology. So we are actually coming to an end. I have one last question, maybe two. The first one is, I am curious about your advices for the new product managers in the industry, in e-commerce industry. I mean, what are the topics that they should focus on? What are the topics that they should be really powerful? What's your, like, probably you're doing a lot of hiring interviews as well. What are you looking for the new PMs?
Great question. I've been doing quite a bit of hiring recently.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's quite interesting because for me, the most important thing to get from a product interview is simply the mindset of the person that you're interviewing. Product, that's the only thing I care about in product managers. Do they have an analytical mindset? Do they think about value as the ultimate thing and how you calculate value? That's really important. Can they manage ambiguity? So can they figure out, like, have all of these random requirements, have a lot of complexity, and are they able to say, not panic? They're able to say, okay, I would structure it like this, I would break it down like this. This is kind of the problem solving thing. And coming back to your point around consulting, that's why a lot of consultants make good product managers, because that's fundamentally your skill set as a strategy consultant, managing ambiguity. And I think the other thing that really needs to come across in the interview is that you're a people person and that you can manage lots of different types of people. So in your role as product manager, you need to deal with business people of all shapes and forms, engineers who have their own challenges and uniqueness, and then also designers, right? So you need to be someone who can tailor their communication and can get along with lots of different types of people. So honestly, that's the only thing I'm looking for in an interview normally. Those things, and like you can demonstrate that in lots of different ways. Like the analytical side, you can demonstrate that from being a software engineer, but then talking about it in a different way, or from being a data analyst, or got so many different ways, right? I think that's my advice to product managers in general. In terms of e-com, I think understanding trends in e-com is quite important. So having that kind of inspiration side and thinking of the realm of the possible and bringing a vision to the space is really always going to be a positive thing, because I think when you're hiring someone, you're looking for new ideas or that outside in perspective or fresh ideas a lot of the time. And then just understanding the basics of what a conversion funnel looks like, types of things you could do to drive conversion. And the other really big thing is, if you are interviewing for a company, you must have spent time on their website or their product and have come with thoughts. It doesn't matter what the thoughts are, but to come with questions, to come with ideas, to come with something, right? Because
it shows the curiosity, right? It's a really
exactly
great value.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably my general advice.
I mean, these are great insights. Thank you so much, Kathryn. And final question, I promise. What do you envision for the future of e-commerce? I mean, do you see that Gen AI will change everything? Or I remember that like 1, 2 years ago, we were talking about virtual reality, augmented reality. Now we're always talking about like Gen AI. I don't know, Apple release Vision Pro, maybe it can change some things, but what do you envision? I mean, what is the most exciting thing that you expect for the industry?
Very interesting question.
I
I
mean,
think
we can talk hours about it, I am sure.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I envisage all of those things for ecom. Like, it's advanced. If you look how much it's advanced over even the last 10 years, you can think about what it's going to be in the next 10. I think it's going to be so hyper personalization is so important. And it's not just about the e-commerce aspect, it's about where
Yeah,
we find our customers, that acquisition side, and tailoring the entire experience from based on where you're finding and what you know what the customer wants at that certain type, like hyper targeting on social platforms, on other platforms, and then targeting that all the way through, I think is something that will definitely happen. Obviously AI will change things. That's absolutely going to happen. So actually, what I envisage for the future of ecom is that those things will like they normally do, like there's the adoption curve, and then that's a
yeah,
differentiator for a lot, and then everyone will adopt that, and it will become again table stakes. So again, like everyone's going to have those aspects in their ecom experience. So again, it comes back to your brand and your products and how you bring those to life for your customer, because it's the only thing that's going to be stable across that time, with hyper personalization, with Gen AI, with different ways of receiving goods, different ways of interacting, and
yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean that's a great answer. As I said, we can talk hours about it because like everything affects the most frequent actions we took in our lives, like purchasing, shopping. It's the thing we do actually. So
Yeah.
of course the technology affects everything on it. All right, and thank you for all these great answers. And with that, we have reached the conclusion of this insightful conversation with Kathryn. We delved into the challenges of uh, strategy management, decision making, and even like picking the tech partnership during our conversation. But before we go, I'd like to express our heartfelt appreciation to Kathryn for sharing his wealth of knowledge and experiences with us today. Thank you for being such a wonderful guest on our show, Kathryn.
Thank you very much
And
for having me. I appreciate it.
yeah, I hope our listeners found this episode as informative and as insightful as I did. Finally, like please contact us if you have any questions, comments, or recommendations for future episodes. We enjoy hearing our viewers' opinion, suggestions. It helps us improve, of course. And thank you for joining us today. Until next time, stay inspired, stay curious. So goodbye for now.